Okay, so it is now time to take a look at this. I have not looked at this before. And just to be clear, I have not taken any. I've not seen this before. Apparently, the markers are gone now from what they were this morning. So, but this should be interesting at the very least. Okay. Hang on. Before we do, I want to see something. Actually, no. I'll come back to that. Now, for a bit of clarification, I have not looked, like, I haven't tried to find any information about the Baltic Battalion unit stats. I know that some people have put out videos showcasing the new specialization. I have not looked at any of them. I want, basically, I want my I don't want my impression to be colored by. I don't want my impression to be colored by anything. So this is the first time I've been seeing the stats. I have been seeing people talk about certain stats on the Discord, and there's one specific piece of information that I've heard that we will get to at some point that I think is really notable, and I'm going to explain why once we get there, but this is about the only thing I know. So, first we have, well, recon. And we have scouts. Excuse me. I do not know how to pronounce that. I don't know how to pronounce a lot of this. Okay, so 75 points for basic rifles from the looks of it. 7.62mm LMG, that's... I mean, all of that looks pretty straightforward. 7.62mm DMR, and then 3 Spike SRs. This is kind of interesting because I wonder exactly how the Spike SR works. And I've already talked about how how, if I'm not mistaken, the Spike SR uses a predicted line of sight guidance system. So it's not technically a missile. It's not technically a fire and forget missile as much as it is as much as you're basically just the launcher itself is just leading the target. However, just to make sure I don't look like an idiot, I am going to check that information right now. So, look up Spike real quick. See if I can't... There's variance. Firing post, missile Spike SR. Short range version, availed in 2012. Oh, okay, here we go. The missile is 18 pounds, 22 pounds disposable. For 22 pounds disposable munition. Minimum range is 160 feet, maximum range is 0.93 miles. It's equipped with a stiff-to-neck, uncooled electrical optical infrared seeker and advanced tracker, as opposed to a gimbaled seeker on the Spike MR/LR/ER. The Spike SR does not require a separate sight, instead utilizing the low-cost thermal camera and guidance electronics strapped to the missile's nose. I love how the wording is strapped to the missile's nose to provide their function through display integrated in the launcher, showing the target until launch. The warhead can either be multi-purpose tandem-shaped charge, or can either be a multi-purpose tandem-shaped charge warhead with blast fragmentation, or a new penetration blast fragmentation variant, leveraging from the Matador's anti-structure warhead to equip maneuvering forces in urban environments to breach enemy cover and structures with a lethal blast effect. May 26. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it actually does use a, Alright, I thought it was a plus. A predicted line of sight guidance system, the same way the NLAW is. It is not. Alright. I am... Okay. What's the Matador? Mirror portable anti-tank, anti-door. Okay, so it's basically like a, kind of like the Gustav, but it's, well, I suppose, so it would be more akin to the Straw, then. Kind of like the Gustav, but more akin to the Straw. Okay. And then we have, the upgrades, quote-unquote, are split up by nation. For that matter, actually... Excuse me. Force Recon has AT-4s. Oh, interesting. You can't airdrop these guys. 8 armor, 30 health. Alright, well they got good vision. Decent smoke. Where is RRC? Oh, that's the door kicking loadout. Okay. So for 75 points, you've got a pretty solid. I mean, RRC has Maws. And the guns with on RRC do go... They shoot slightly further. They don't hit as hard, which is kind of odd because the bullet's larger. But, okay. Mark 48. 2, 2. Alright. They don't have any underbarrel grenade launchers. Honestly, it seems like the best thing these guys have is the Spike SRs. Because just from what I'm looking here, their stats are a bit meh. Except for the fact that they have the Spike SRs. So, and I mean, to be fair, you know, Spike SR, it's a pretty solid launcher from the looks of it. 800 meter range, decent damage, decent amount of pen. It's fire and forget, so that ought to be fun. Interestingly enough, it can't target helicopters in the same way that most direct fire launchers can. Which, again, I do suppose makes a degree of sense when you think about how it functions. Anyway. And then we have these guys. 6-man, 6-man. Okay, and you can airdrop these ones. HK-416s. A mini-me. Okay. And they have a Carl Gustav. 84mm tandem. 84mm tandem. 225 versus 1.8. Okay. So 50, 450. Well, they've got a bit more ammunition than RRC, and they have the Gustav like RRC does. How many miss? They have 6. RRC only has 4. Okay, so it's got the same amount. Huh. Okay, so you can airdrop these guys, and they have a bit more ammunition to work with. Alright. Alright, that's interesting. Price point's a little high. Oh, well, I say that. It's roughly on par with RRC, all things considered. The individual rifles are not as good. But aside from that, it's roughly on par with what RRC has. So, And then we have the SVU, which is again in a 6-man squad. And these, okay, so these are your door kickers. You can airdrop them. They've got 4 smokes, 10 armor. Actually, that's a point. How much armor do these guys have? 8. Okay. G36Ks. 2 of those. 2 Benellis. And flashbangs. Where is RRC? Give me RRC CQC loadout. For that matter, give me this CQC loadout. 4 of those, 2 M1014s, which appear to have the same stats as the Benelli. CQBR. Okay, those things, they do more damage. G36K, which, if memory serves, the G36K is basically just like a carbine version of the regular G36. Alright. RC, Doris, 2 M320s, and they have LMGs rather than shotguns. But they have regular AT4s. These guys, however, are flashbangs, which means I can also draw comparisons to pararescue. Which they appear to be roughly on par with. I think a better comparison would be with pararescue rather than with RRC. Okay, so 6-man door kickers with flashbangs. Alright, so that's interesting. And then we have this squad. And these are your divers. 10 armor. And oh, they only have MP5s. Okay. Note to self, do not get these guys into a gunfight with literally anything. There's only 4 guys. 10 armor. You can airdrop them and they can swim. 1 smoke. But, I mean, the closest comparison you're drawing here is with PDSS. And to be fair, PDSS is slightly more expensive for what is effectively the exact same... the exact same stats. Except PDSS have much more offensive weaponry. Regardless of whether you take the grenade launchers or the rifles. These guys, the only thing they have is MP5s. I mean, to be fair, it does decent damage. So I guess you could use them kind of like door kickers, but... I mean, using them kind of like door kickers is like... It's kind of like using a F1 car to drive to your friend's house down the street. And then we have snipers. And the unit size changes, I'd like to point out. So we have basic snipers. For 15 points for 90. And they get a 50 cal. Alright, so this is roughly on par with scout snipers then, with the M107. So DMR versus... And also the image changes. Versus what? DMR 6, 1.8, 10 to 20, 5, 2.25. Okay, shorter range I understand because it's 5.56. Why is this doing like 4. No. It's doing 0.45 more damage than 7.62. They both ignore cover. M107, 1200, 4.3, 20 to 40. Stats are basically the same. I mean, it's a 50 caliber rifle. Okay, we're talking about a 650 grain to 750 grain hunk of lead coated in copper moving at 3,000 feet per second. You hit someone with that and, well, they may not know it, but their buddies who just got splattered with the poor person's head probably will. Alright, so it's your basic two-man sniper team, but with a 50 cal. And then we have these guys. You can airdrop them. No smokes, though. These guys didn't have smokes, did they? No, they didn't. But they both have lasers. Okay, and this is a three-man team. So G36K with a grenade launcher. Oh, they have two sniper rifles. Ha! Alright. That's kind of interesting. You could kind of maybe-ish use them like for a support squad. Rather than a scout, you could use them to actively use them in combat, is what I'm trying to get at. Shooting people. The rifle, however, seems to be more akin to something like this. 800, 1020, 3.6, 6.8. Yeah. 7.6 by 51. That's now this one is using 338 Lapua, which I'm guessing is that's the one with the Lapua, and we know that cartridge because this is also using 338 Lapua. 5 to 7. Okay, so the aim time is slightly longer for these guys than it is for Green Berets. Huh. Okay. Ranger snipers. 38. That's using Winchester Magnum, and that's also suppressed. Alright, so that's interesting. Having multiple sniper units would be interesting. Personally, I kind of would like having two of these. I forget what they're called. I forget what they're called. Hang on. Here we go. What did you call them in here? Infantry. Okay. Okay, so those first ones were Estonian. And then these ones are door kickers. Lithuanian combat divers. An Accuracy International AXMC. An Accuracy International Arctic Warfare. Okay, so I kind of wish there was 2 AXMCs in the squad, rather than just having the one with the AW, because if you do that, the range is the same. Is why I say that. Because right now you've got 2 separate ranges, which is a bit weird. Okay, and on to vehicles. We have the Scimitar. And this thing does not have a 0.8 stealth rating. Which is kind of funny, because if you remember the Scimitar from the, actually, is it still present? Scenarios. What am I doing? No. Yes. The Scimitar, the one in the game for the campaign, had a 0.8 stealth rating. Hang on.
Visual feed is up.
Hush with your whiny engine-ness. Oh! It is not the game. And these have literally been replaced. Have they? It's not in here anymore. Huh. Okay. Well, anyway, what I was getting at was that the one that was originally used for the campaign, it had a stealth rating of 0.8, which basically means that I believe, if I understand the way the stealth rating works, that if a unit would if a unit had 1,000 meters of view range, a unit with a stealth rating of 1 would be spotted at 1,000 meters. A unit with a stealth rating of 1.25 would be spotted at 800. The way the stealth rating works is it's basically a divider to the view range of anything looking at it. So a unit with a stealth rating of 0.8 would be spotted from 1,250 meters away. And yes, I said that just pulling up a calculator. So, 14 health, 1750. It's decently heavily armored. Fire extinguisher on the side. It's got decent armor. You can airdrop it. I find very interesting. Autocannon, 1,000 meter range, 60 to 150 millimeters of pen. Huh. Okay. And then kinetic. 6-round magazine size with a 1 to 2 second reload time. Alright. And, hang on. And you can up armor it, which you can still airdrop it even when you up armor it. Huh. Very interesting. Also, this thing is light enough to be airlifted by this thing's light enough to be airlifted by a... No. I was about to say it's light enough to be airlifted by Blackhawk. It's not. The Blackhawk only has half that cargo capacity. But you can airlift 2 of them with a CH-53K, which could make Marine Corps Baltic decks fun. Up armored 10 gives you... I mean, it's cage armor, so it's not a whole bunch of protection. It'll save you against things like 30mm HE rounds, but I mean, if you're trying to look for protection against things like like ATGMs or man-portable anti-armor rockets, it's not really going to do much. Also, I would like to know what these boxes are on the side. I wonder, and this is purely speculation, but I wonder if they could be something like cameras. The idea is that if you want to see what's on the other side of something, like if you have a building here, you could just nose the vehicle up to it, and then use these to be able to see what's around the next corner. That might be what it is. I have no idea. Purely speculation. So, but I'd be very interested to learn what these are. Overall, for 75 points, it's not a bad reconnaissance vehicle. It's decently heavily armored. It's got a decent amount of health. The 30mm should be fun. The machine gun is, I mean, it's basically fits the same PKT, M240, FN mag style mold, so nothing special there from the looks of it. Then we have a Spartan, tiny little troop transport. With another, I'm assuming that's an FN mag derivative. 6 mans, 95 forward speed. You can airdrop it, and it's actually decently heavily armored, all things considered, for only 40 points. This thing's also decently fast for a tracked vehicle. This thing is very fast for a tracked vehicle. That's like, I think that is the fastest tracked vehicle in the game. That is faster than a number of wheeled vehicles. Oh, look at the cute little internals. And there's like 2 fire extinguishers. 3. There's 3 fire extinguishers on this thing. Why is there 3 fire... There's 2 fire extinguishers up here. And there's 3 fire extinguishers on the Spartan. Okay. What do we got? Oh! Okay, we've got a... Alright. We've got an M2 with an RWS. And I love the bins for catching the shells. We've got an M2 Browning. We've got a GMG, which, I mean, stat-wise, that appears to basically just be a Mark 19. It's not exactly a Mark 19, but it's very close to Mark 19. And then we've also got an option with a Spike, which, I mean, it hikes the price up. It more than doubles the price, but ATGM. And then we have an option for up armoring, which again, you can still airdrop it while it's up armored, and it's still very fast. Honestly, I think it might be a touch too fast, but I'm not gonna complain. Spike LR, what is this? Oh, okay, so 16 meter range, 700mm pen, tow missile speed, 10.5 terminal, armor, okay. Bushmaster. So tow missiles, same speed, same range, semi-active, and javelin, slightly shorter range, same damage, slightly higher pen, but it's terminal guidance and top attack. And javelin is not that much slower than tow. Okay, so it's longer ranged, has the same damage as javelin, slightly less pen. And you get 3 of them. But you only get 1 in the magazine from the looks of it. Okay. Before you need to... what's that? 8 to 12. That is 8 to 10. That is also 8 to 10. Okay, honestly, taking the extra 5 points for the machine gun might not be a bad idea because it does up your vision, your optics range slightly compared to this, where 12, 6, 2. 14, 8, 2. Okay. So yeah, that might not be a bad idea. And also, while I'm at it, one thing I should probably do is take a look at the camouflages. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Where's the settings? Clock dependent. Day. Apply. Alright, there we go, so we have more light. So that's your basic. That's your camouflage. Your winter. Okay. Take the armor package off so it's easier to see. I wonder, would this actually be easier to see if it was yeah, that actually makes it a little... I think it's easier to see like that. Well, at least it's easier for me to see like that. I don't see much of a difference between these two. That's just me, though. And then you have this thing. So yeah, 95 points. That's not... I mean, it's not necessarily super cheap, but it's not too bad, all things considered, for what you get. You get a 16 health transport that is decently immune to most weapons, has an ATGM and a heavy machine gun, can be airdropped for 95 points. That's... I mean, the closest contemporary I can think of is this thing, which isn't immune to most rifle fire. Okay, yeah, it's faster. It's got better vision, and you've got an M107, but it can't be airdropped. It isn't as tough, and it isn't nearly as immune to most rifle fire. Okay. And then we have this truck. Oh, okay. So the weapon can't be fired on the move. Makes sense. I like that. And it's actually kind of misleading because I thought, for a split second, I thought this was the front, with the way the vehicle's frame is set up. So we have a anti-tank rifle, 1,000-meter range. Yeah, see, like that, like it looks like this is the front, but it's not. 1,000-meter range, 8.5 damage, 600 pen. Hang on, where is Coastal? Coastal is 300 millimeter pen, 7 damage. But these are only 73 millimeter. Recoilless rifle rounds. Yes, it took me that long to... That's the same. That's the same thing, isn't it? Sprawl SPG-9M versus... Yeah, okay, that is the same. Cool, so I don't have to leave the same, Alright, so... Twice as much pen, 1.5 more damage, 3 to 4 second aim time, 5 to 8 second reload time, or 5 to 6 second. Is it 5 to 6 second? Yes, it is 5 to 6 second. Eight and a half damage, 600 millimeters pen. HE is 9 damage, 90 millimeters pen. Versus 7.5 damage. Same blast radius. Okay. So it's a vehicle with a recoilless rifle. And I mean, sure, it's not going to be threatening a T90M from the front, but all things considered, that's not bad damage. 45 points for that's not terrible. Oh, and then we get a variant with an ATGM. And a machine gun. RBS 56, 1200. It is top attack. Okay, so it's like a suckier toe. It's top attack and only has 1200 meter range, but it's got the same damage and pen as the toe. Alright. Ooh, the guy's on his knees. I could not sit like that for very long. Well, I mean, I probably could if I had a decent pair of knee pads, but you get 6 missiles. And you can't fire on the move. And it's only semi-active, which I assume means that... Actually... I assume that means that if you start moving while the missile's guiding, the missile isn't gonna hit. Huh. Okay. Well, it's decently fast. It's not very tough. It's got good vision, and you can airdrop it. Well, it's got good vision with the RBS 56. You know, for a light ATGM carry, that's not exactly bad. I mean, I can draw comparisons to this with the Faggot. The Faggot has more pen, slightly more range, slightly less damage. It's about as fast, but it's not top attack. And there's more supply weight. And for that matter, where's the Sarmat? Oh. That's interesting. That changes too. Okay. Oh, well, that doesn't change. Anyway, I digress. Sarmat with the nets. They changed the spelling on that, I think. Same range, much better pen, slightly lower damage. And the Sarmat is slightly cheaper. Even though it's much faster. Same vision. Okay. Did they really change the name? No, that says melts. That's... I and Y aren't right next to each other, but I suppose they could have accidentally misspelled that. I mean, it's spelled M-I-T or M-E-T-I-S here, but M-E-T-Y-S here. And spelled M-E-T-I. Okay, so yeah, I guess they just misspelled the name by accident. Oh well, it's no big deal. Okay, so for a small, light ATGM carrier, that's not too bad. Only other thing that I could compare it to would be this, which is 5 points more expensive, much longer range. It's not top attack though, and again, it's semi-active with much more pen. Okay. Although the missile speed there isn't as good. Oh, excuse me. Alright. So, I think... Oh, I don't know. Which one would I prefer to use? Honestly, I might prefer the TOW on the IFAV, if only because it gives me more standoff range. But subsequently, that's also the most expensive option of the four. If you want that sort of light ATGM buggy, for lack of a better term, that's the most expensive option of the four, and I believe it's also the one that carries the least amount of ammunition. No, they all carry the same. That said, of all of them, this is going to be the most effective against heavily armored targets. The Humvee, or not the Humvee, but the IFAV with the TOW is going to be the most effective against lightly armored targets. And then we have this thing, which is also an infantry transport, can carry 6 guys, and again, can be airdropped. Alright. I mean, it's squishy, but that's to be expected, honestly, for the 50 cal on a M240 like. I can't help but think it would be easier for him to maneuver that if he was standing. Oh well. And you just have an option between a 50 cal or a grenade launcher. It's fast. Okay, 130. Didn't they say something about that? Four by 4 transport, faster than any other. Okay, so yeah. It's 130. It fits in the same basic role as the RSOV here. Same speed. So another alternative would be like this thing, which granted is slightly tougher and isn't nearly as fast. 1200, 1200, 1200. All these can be airdropped though, so. And I don't think Russia has any light infantry transports like that. I mean, they've got these, but they aren't infantry transports. And to be fair, they are fast. They all fit that same sort of speed bracket. Okay. Oh, I kind of like that one. This is an interestingly designed vehicle. Okay. Also, I haven't seen this thing come down at all since I selected the RBS 56. So that may not actually move. Yeah, I like that one. It's kind of hard for me to tell the difference between the basic version and then the alternate. Winter camo is not that difficult, though. Also, spare tire. I kind of can't help but think the spare tire would unbalance the vehicle. And besides, the idea of having a second spare tire on the other side isn't necessarily a bad one. I mean, I assume this thing would have a spare tire somewhere. Actually, that's a point. Didn't the RSOV have a spare tire in the back? No. Oh, no, it has a spare tire on the hood. This thing has a spare tire in the back. This thing has a spare tire back there. And this thing has a spare tire up there. Okay. I wonder, like, would you actually put your spare tire back on the vehicle, or would you just toss it on the ground and leave it? This is a spare tire in the back. I suppose that depends on how much time you have. Like, if you're actively being pursued, and for some reason or other you can't just drive it on the rim, then you'd probably just change it and then just leave the spare. Or the, not spare, the flat. Oh, that one's not too bad. Nor is that one. I kind of like that one. Alright, so again, this is basically your cheap transport, roughly akin to the RSOV. Oh, excuse me. And then we move on to infantry. And so, okay, so these are your reservists. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so small 5-man unit. They can sprint. That's about it. They don't even have smoke grenades. Light armor, Galil. Oh, that's not too bad. Negev, NG5. Again, that's not too bad. And a B300. Useful against infantry or... Alright, that's... Is it that seems roughly on par with the small D. 6.5, 65. No, I need small D. 8.5, 85, 30. Yeah, that's basically just a reloadable version of the small D. Okay. In fact, this, if memory serves, actually was the precursor to this. And for that matter, yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same. Also, because I didn't check this in my previous video, yeah, that does change. I really wish we got a top attack version of this. Anyway. Okay. So that's not too bad for something like CQC. Although, well, I mean, it's only 35 points, so it's not going to be too good. Galil's light machine gun, and then a single shoulder-fired launcher. And then we have these guys with G36Ks and A2 laws. Okay. So it's a dedicated anti-armor, but it doesn't have a whole lot of pen or a whole lot of damage. Again, it's not necessarily... It's only 35 points, so... When I describe these guys as reservists, you should know what to expect. They're not going to be super capable, but for basic infantry, they're not too bad. And then these guys. These guys have G3s. And the G3s don't do a lot of damage, but they have decent range and decent pen. More so than a lot of these other ones. HK-79. So they actually get a grenade launcher. And they get an MG3. Which is basically an MG42 from World War II. Except rechambered into 7.62 by 50, or 7.62 by 51 NATO rather than 7.92 like the original MG42 was. And again, they can only sprint. They don't even get smoke grenades. That kind of sucks. And they got an M2 Carl Gustav, which decent-ish range. Damage isn't great. That's basically on par with an AT4, isn't it? It's just, it has slightly longer range. Yeah, it has slightly longer range than an AT4, but... slightly longer range than an AT4. Same damage, same pen. So it's just a reloadable AT4. All things considered, I kind of want the AT4. Because at least since AT4s are disposable launchers, they fire a whole lot faster. Actually, did any of these guys get disposable? Okay, well, the guys with the law is disposable, so that's not too bad. And then we have basic... oh, no, this isn't basic infantry. This is the opposite of basic infantry. This is the Special Forces equivalent. 9-man squads. Now, you can throw them out the back of a perfectly good airplane. And... Alright, so that's your rifles with an M203. MG4, which, if memory serves, is just like an MG3, but chambered in 7.62. Or not 7.62, 5.56. I say that, now that I look at it, it's more akin to a FN mag, so it's probably like just an FN mag that's been chambered at 5.56. And then this thing. 5 of them, direct shot, 200 millimeters pen, 9 damage. Where's small, or SRAW? Okay, so SRAW. Alright, much less damage in pen. Same idea. Oh, and shorter range. But same idea. Okay. Okay. So it's like a mini SRAW. That's not terrible. 18-meter blast radius. 28-meter blast radius. And then we've got these guys, which are CQC. The Mini-Me Para, Benelli M4s, some 810 Laws, and Flashbangs. Okay. 66mm HE. The 810 Law, that's the same thing these guys are equipped with, right? Yeah. It's just these guys have more of them. Larger squad and all that. Okay. So, again, this is your door kickers. 9-man door kicker team. That's not too bad. From my understanding, from what I've read on the Discord, 6-man door kicker teams are a little bit iffy because they just don't have the DPS, even with flashbangs. I think the minimum that you can reasonably go is these guys. Like, I think this is the smallest that you can reasonably go. But it's not like you can... It's not like with Delta where you have a 12-man door kicker team with flashbangs that you can just toss into a building and they'll completely clean it out. Like a fox in a hen house. They don't apparently... Or 6-man door kicker teams don't do that. I suspect 9-man door kicker teams are going to be better in that regard, but not exactly spectacular. Or I say not exactly spectacular. They're going to be better in that regard, but not as hands-free as Delta is. And then you have basic infantry, 8-man squads. Oh, these guys have 4 spike SRs. Okay. M203, R20s, MG3s. They have basic MG3s. Alright. Well, I mean, to be fair, 1,200 7.62mm rounds per minute. That's going to keep heads down. I mean, it's either going to keep heads down or it's going to cut heads off. And then the Galats, 7.62. That's not too bad. 4 spike SRs. Again, not bad. For 75 points, that's not bad. Armor's a bit meh. Still. Where is, for that matter, where's motor? These guys are 10 points lighter. Roughly on par, except they have, what I'm just going to go out and say is worse ATGMs. Okay. Or worse anti-armor. There really isn't a US comparator, is there? Rangers are 80. I guess the closest thing you would get would be, like, these guys at 75. Oh, yeah, no, these guys are the same price. Slightly larger. No DMR, but 2 M249s with pretty solid damage and a bunch of AT4s. With less range, less damage, and less pen. Okay. To be fair, those launchers aren't terrible. And I mean, if we compare them with Coastal, which is the same price, the launcher is actually pretty solid. It's just the range is crap, and you don't get a medium machine gun or DMR. Oh, okay, that's the more expensive option. 65 points for a 4-man or an 8-man squad. G36s. KSP 558s. Scar H DMR. And this, I'm pretty sure, is just a RAWs. Where's Rangers? 5, 8.5, 450. Yeah, that's basically just RAWs. Except I think Rangers have one more. Nope, they have the same. Okay. Okay. Not too much to talk about, all things considered. And then you have these guys for 70 with 6 AT4s, a pair of mini-me's. Alright. That's not too bad, I guess. Range on these things? Only 300. Okay, well, that's not great. The range on those is only 300 as well. And then we have an M2 team, which is pretty much exactly the same as what you get with Airborne. Except Airborne has more armor. An M2 and a GMG team. Or just 2 GMGs. You know, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. I'm starting to notice that most of these Baltic Battalion units don't have a lot of body armor. Not to the same level as a lot of the US squads. I mean, granted, not all US squads have 8 body armor or 10 body armor, but most of them don't. I mean, those guys have 10. And to be fair, that's not bad, because with a lot of US Special Forces, they drop down to 8 when you go with the standoff configuration. So having 10 for standoff isn't bad. But I mean, these guys have 8. Airborne has 8. Pretty much everything associated with Airborne has 8. Marines have 8, I believe. Granted, these guys don't have 8, but Marines themselves have 8. It's just the Armor Brigade and Striker Cav that only have 6. And even then, I'd like to point out the Associated Engineers also have 8. Or 10, rather. Okay, well, honestly, there's not much to talk about here. It's just either 2 M2 Brownings, 2 GMGs, or one of each. Then we have ATGMs and a Milan. Milan ER. Okay, that's not too bad. 6 missiles. 1,300 meter range is not great. I mean, it's on par with the Javelin, but it's still not great. Damage isn't spectacular. Speed is a bit meh. Lots of pen, though. So, lots of pen. Javelin for 85. 6 missiles, terminal gun. I mean, it's a Javelin. Also, Javelin's only 540? I thought Javelin was... That's only 540. I checked Javelin here, and it was 685. Note to self: the vehicle-mounted javelin is faster than the man-portable version, apparently. Okay. Well, I mean, it's a basic javelin team: 4-man, terminal guidance, javelin. I mean, javelin is javelin. I don't know what else to say. And then you have the Spike LR, which, for 110 points, terminal, I don't know. I'm not sure that's worth 110 points. If only because, yeah, the missile flies out pretty far, and it is terminal guidance, but you only have 1. So, I kind of expected that to be like, I kind of expect that to be more like 100 points. I'd say 100 points would probably be good. I mean, the game is treating the Spike LR as basically just like a better Javelin. Which, to be fair, Spike LR is a larger system than Javelin is, so that's not entirely surprising. I'd like to point out, though, that Javelin does hit slightly harder with the way the game's penetration system works. So, aside from that, though, it is basically better in most every respect. Except for the reload time. Reload time is... Okay, well, Javelin reload time isn't great either. Huh. Okay. So reload time is the same as the Javelin. Still, I think the Spike might be a bit expensive. It's not bad, it's just might be a bit expensive. Especially when you consider that for the same size, I can grab a TOW 2B team, which is also top attack, is semi-active, goes out to the same range at the same speed, doesn't quite do as much damage when it hits, but it's like 25 points cheaper. So, I don't know. I think that might be a little bit expensive. And then we have air defense manpads. What do we have here? We have a Purin. Fire and frigate. Okay, the range isn't bad. Alright. That's actually pretty solid. I think that's roughly on par with the Verba. It is roughly on par with the Verba. And it is better than pretty much any Stinger. 8 damage. 8 damage. How much damage is the Verba doing? Is it 8 or is it 7? It's doing 8. 30, 80, 50, 1800. 30, 80, 50, 1800. 30, 80, 50. Okay. So it's pretty much exactly the same. Alright, so it's basically a Verba analog. RBS 70. Okay. So RBS 70 is semi-active. It does less damage. You can't move. But it has a slightly longer range. And it's pretty fast. That's not too bad. No, that's not too bad, but I kind of wish the damage was a touch higher. I don't know. I just expect the damage to be a touch higher from a larger amount like that. Excuse me. Slightly larger blast radius and much more pen though. I just like to point out. So okay, well actually no. No, it just has a larger blast radius. I thought the system's only at 30 pen. Or you can go with a pair of Groms, which don't have very good performance, but you get 2 of them. In fact, where is... It's on par with the Igla N. So, not spectacular. Although, to be fair, that's basically the same price point. I mean, I think the Grom literally is just a Polish copy of the Igla. So, the idea that it's not as good isn't necessarily, or it's not as good as the other options and is very similar to the Igla isn't necessarily unusual. Okay. I mean, I at least wouldn't mind trying it with the RBS 70. But still, the RBS 70 is a little disappointing. Alright, and now we're going on to vehicles. And we have the CV90. Okay, So I'm going to look at the weaponry on the CV90 first, and then I'm going to go into the the armor package, because the armor package I'm going to be on that for a while. 8-man seats, decently fast, smoke, it's pretty heavy. Bushmaster 3, which... Alright, so the Bushmaster 3 does have better... You know, I'm just thinking that this pretty much invalidates the gun on the Booker, pen-wise. Like... Where's the Booker? The Booker, the 50mm only has slightly better pen. Sure, it does more damage, but... It's got slightly better range. I don't know. I kind of want to see that 50mm buffed. But if they tried to buff that 50mm, oh, so many people would cry. Actually, that sounds like a great idea. I want them to buff the 50mm. I would love to feast on the tears. Anyway, so... Not bad pen, all things considered. 85 to 170. That's not bad. Modernization. We do get a Mark IV turret, which doubles the vehicle price, but gives you slightly better view range. An active protection system of note. And it gives you 2 Spike LRs. I mean, you only have 2 missiles, but it gives you 2 Spike LRs. Also, did it change the gun? No, I don't think it changed the gun. Okay. And then we have the armor package. And you have an option of up-armoring this thing. Now, here's where things get interesting. Note that the armor package has increased the front kinetic armor. Now, this isn't necessarily special, you might think. I could go to something like, say, an AMPV. Throw the armor package on. That's also increased the front kinetic armor. But here's the real kicker. What the armor package on the AMPV does, or, for example, something like the armor package on... Where's the BMP-3? Something like this. What this does is it slightly boosts the kinetic protection, but greatly boosts the heat protection. It does this because the add-on armor... Excuse me. Takes the form of ERA blocks, or explosive reactive armor. What was done with the CV9035, though, is you have literally just bolted on a bunch of extra metal. You'll note that the heat protection is still the same as kinetic protection, but the kinetic protection is now 180. Also, I'd like to point out that the top armor protection is the same as the Abrams. But the kinetic protection is now 180. Kinetic protection. This thing has the single highest kinetic protection of any transport vehicle in the game, barring the T-15. Now, I'm going to be back in just a second, but I want to lay out why this is important and why this is kind of nuts. And why I honestly think this is probably going to get nerfed. Okay, so I'm on BA Armory, or B Armory, however it's pronounced. And this site has a very interesting feature. It is a damage calculator using the kind of ammunition for the weapon system. Now, let's go over here, see how much health this thing has. 16. Alright, let's punch these figures in. So we have 16 HP, and I'm going to punch in the kinetic armor. And you're immediately going to see the problem. Well, I say problem. The problem from the Russian perspective. With 180mm kinetic armor, the 2A42 with its 100 millimeter to 50 millimeter pen split, can't penetrate the front of a CV90 at 500 meters. In fact, at 120, you could barely penetrate the side. Actually, that's a point. How far away? So, like what? 800? Okay, yeah, you're not penetrating the side from 800. But here's the problem. Okay, well, again, problem from the Russian perspective. If you're not getting through the front armor at 500 meters, what range are you getting through the front armor at? 400? Which is, I'd like to point out, is what I would have guessed. Because I said before, I did not check any of these stats. But there was one thing that I knew from seeing people talking about it on the Discord. And this is it. The 180 millimeter kinetic on the front of the CV90-35. A 2A72 or a 2A42 is not getting through it at 400 meters. At 300 meters. $201 meters, you're not getting through it. You need to get to 200 meters in order to get through it. And I'd like to point out that you're going to be firing more than 100 rounds to actually kill it from that distance. That's how heavy the armor is on the front of that thing. And it goes beyond that, because even something like the Bushmaster on the Bradley with the same deal can just barely penetrate it at 500 meters. 501? Completely ineffective. You've got to get within 500 meters to actually punch through that. And mind you, that gun on the CV90 isn't bad. Okay, we're talking, what is it, 170 millimeters of pen? Yeah. So, that's not bad. Now, if we go to the Bushmaster 2 with its 150 to 75 millimeter pen split, and we put in the same figures, the Bushmaster 2 can still penetrate the armor out to, I believe, 800 meters. Yes, 800. It can't go beyond 800, but it can penetrate it out to 800. So. And for that matter, if we were to select the Russian 57 millimeter from the Apoka module, no, nuts, no, go away. And we were to conduct the same calculations, you'll see that from 800 meters, you're going to be able to penetrate the front. But from 801, you're not. So, yeah. The CV90-35 is going to bully a lot of stuff. Just by sitting at range. Now, that's not to say that it's going to be completely immune. Because if we take the 2A91 that the T-15 or the BM-3K have, and we put in the same calculations, you're still going to be able to kill it, even at maximum range in a decent number of shots. So, it's not like the vehicle is going to be unstoppable. Oh, okay, I thought the BRM-3K had that. Alright. Well, that's that thing. So what does the BRM-3K have? BRM 3K. Where's the BRM 3K? BRM 3K has the 2A90. Okay, and how is that different from the 2A91? Alright, well. 2.85, 4.23. I mean, aside from having a whole lot less ammunition. Guard. Okay, so I don't know the difference. It's not range. Oh, I mean, the BRM-3K is going to be punching through it at the same range anyway, because the penetration values are pretty much exactly the same, as is the damage values. Same thing here with the S60. The S60 is still going to cut through that like a hot knife through butter. Hang on. The S60 is still going to cut through that like a hot knife through butter. As is the AU-220 on the PT-76, which I don't see anyone using. I know I made that comment on a previous video, but I don't see anyone really using this thing. When it's basically a Booker analog. So, I don't get why people are crying about the Booker when you have an alternative in front of you and you're just not using it. And I know I already touched on the differences as, go away. It's not as tough as the Booker, I know that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you get more of them. And they can swim, and they're airdroppable, and they're cheaper. Speaking of, where's the Booker? Booker. There's the Booker. I don't know. Maybe they should up the penetration maximum range to 120, so it's similar to the 2A90 or 2A91, or just up this to 200. But again, the Booker isn't going to have any problem punching through a CV90 from the front either. So the biggest difference is that it's just not doing quite as much damage per shot. .32. That's more than twice as many rounds, right? Yeah, that is more than twice as many rounds, just because these ones do more damage. Okay. But yes, that is the basics behind why this is so notable. And why all that armor is so notable is because, well, this right here and just how crazy this will be. If I'm going to be entirely honest, and I already closed that window. Nuts. If I'm going to be entirely honest, I wouldn't at all be surprised if that figure gets nerfed to something like 150 millimeters of kinetic. Because from 150 millimeters of kinetic, the Russian 2A42 or 2A72 with their 100 millimeter 250 millimeter pen range, is still going to be able to pen that from, I think, 500 meters or closer. The Bushmaster on the Bradley, or technically the LAV-25 as well, is going to be able to pen it from 750 meters or closer. And the Bushmaster 2 or the 2A72 or the 2A74, the short 57. This thing, the 2A94. That's going to be able to pen it from, or that and the Bushmaster 2 is going to be able to pen it barely all the way at all the way to maximum range. Although, if I'm going to be entirely honest, if they wanted to up the survivability of vehicles, I wouldn't mind seeing them up the armor values of every, like, up the front armor on anything that has 100 kinetic to 120, and then up it to 150 with the armor package. That is assuming that they keep this the same and don't think that there's a problem with this. And if I'm going to be entirely honest, I would not at all be surprised to see this get nerfed. So that's good. That is really good. I mean, the platform is 160 points, so it's expensive, but it's good. It's not exactly slow either. I mean, even if you just take the regular CV90 turret, you're still looking at 90 points for a very heavily armored platform with a pretty solid gun. Oh, the commander's cupula's moving. That's not bad. Or you can literally double the vehicle price without even taking the armor package, just using this turret. Okay, and then we have a light truck, something roughly akin to the IFAV. In fact, look, that model looks pretty much exactly like the IFAV. So, then again, I think the IFAV was based off of a Mercedes-Benz, and this thing is probably based off of Mercedes-Benz as well. So we have a Milan, and wow, that is cheap at only 30 points. Okay, so we have a Milan. Or we have a Mapats, which goes up to 40 points. Pen's not great, but it's not terrible. The damage is pretty decent. I think Mapats is kind of. Actually, let me look this up. Look this up before I make myself look like an idiot. I was about to say Mapats is kind of like a French version of Toe, but I don't think it is. Mapats is man-portable anti-tank system, also the Hebrew word for explosion. Laser-guided beam riding ATGM, developed by IMI. As a possible successor to the Toe. It's sometimes nicknamed the Petra. I probably butchered that. An Aramaic word for stick. Can operate day or night. Use a laser designator on. Okay, so it's basically like a laser-designated version of Toe instead of wire-guided. No trailing wire, so it can be fired over water at naval targets or from sea to land, unlike wire-guided ATGMs. Externally, is very similar to Toe 2. The newer version, developed in the 90s, has a new solid propellant rocket motor, better laser guidance, some new warheads, including tandem charge, heat, or just an HE bunker buster. So presumably something akin to Toe 2B. Apparently, the tandem charge version has a penetration of 1,200 millimeters, which is like Cornet M good. So, mind you, this is just the original at 800. So I wouldn't at all mind seeing an upgrade that gives us a tandem charge pen value. I mean, I mean, Cornet is even listed here as a comparable system. So. Alright, so that's not too bad of a system. Current operators include Chile, Ecuador, and Venezuela, with former operators including Estonia and Israel. So, if we get an Israel specialization, which I hope we... Well, I say specialization. If we get an Israel nation, which I hope we would at some point, then that sounds like it could be interesting. Especially the tandem charge version. The tandem charge version sounds very fun. I'm kind of sad we don't get the tandem charge version here. I mean, heck, I wouldn't mind seeing the price go up to like 70 points for the tandem charge version. I mean, to be fair, this goes up to 70 points as well. 1,600 meters, 13 damage, 800 explosive pen. Yeah, just give us the tandem charge version for the same price. Terminal, 3 to 4, 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 3 to 4. Okay. So it's... I mean, it's basically, it's a light truck with a Spike LR at the back. This thing is just a brick. Also, is that like a radiator back there? Does this thing change with the armor? Not by much. Oh, I like that. Okay. We have some very deep armored... I say deep, some very tall armored skirts. I'm not sure what the word to use is. And there's also hinges on the armor, which I suppose is to make the certain sections of the vehicle more easily accessible. Anyway. I like that camouflage. And that one too. And then there's that. I'm just thinking, maybe instead of 40 points, it's like 30 points. Because if the Spike LR is top attack for the same range, I don't think the Russians have any small Cornet buggy for me to compare it against. But something like with Cornet M range and or Cornet M pen and damage, but only 1,600 meter range. That sounds like it'd be kind of fun. Actually, that's a point. How fast is a Cornet M? 720. Conkers is also 720. Okay. And then we have a basic Humvee, 4-man seating. This is pretty much exactly the same as the Humvee in here. In fact, if I were to take this and give it an M2 Browning, well, it would be, except this Humvee has smoke. Which is kind of interesting, because that means that this is the only Humvee variant that does not have smoke. Can we get smoke on this thing, please? Just for an extra 5 points. An M2 Browning or a GMG. No add-on armor package option, which kind of sucks, but eh. You can airdrop it, though. I mean, which makes sense. You can airdrop all the other Humvees. At least I can add on armor package. Oh, and then we have a Leopard 2A8. And... oh boy, this thing is tough. I'm just looking at the armor values. That, for 245 points, is not bad. So where's the catch? Oh, it's decently fast. Okay, so... oh... 457.20. That's like SEP, right? Oh no, that's not. Ha! Okay, so that's the catch. It's got like basically M829A1 APDS. Or APFSDS. Alright, so the dart's not spectacular. He is... I mean, gun range is nice, but the dart's not spectacular. And you have HE. You actually have a lot of HE. That's 42 rounds. Okay. Alright, well, that dart's not great by any stretch of the imagination. You know, what's the HE like? 9, 18, 6, 20. 9, 18, 6. Okay. So you've got like basic A2 or heavy common firepower for on like SEP V3 levels of armor. That's actually pretty interesting. You've got SEP V3 levels of protection, but with only like M1A2 levels of pen. But what I was starting to say was, I wonder if that's just a thematic choice to make the vehicle different, or I wonder if that's supposed to reflect the use of tungsten in the penetrator rather than depleted uranium. Because, okay, so the way SABO works, APFSDS, that stands for Armor Piercing Fin Stabilized to Discarding SABO. And if there's a T at the end, then that T just stands for Tracer. So basically, the way it works is you have it's basically a giant metal needle with a few small fins at the back. And this needle, or dart, would be more accurate, is moving ridiculously fast. Like, if memory serves, it's leaving the barrel... If memory serves, M829 SABO rounds is leaving the 44 caliber gun barrel of an Abrams at about Mach 4.95. Or 4.95 times the speed of sound. Now, mind you, that's the 44 caliber M256. Which is a derivative of the German RH-120, the original RH-120. The Leopard 2A8 has the 55 caliber version of the RH-120, which is a longer barrel. So the dart is probably leaving the barrel of this thing slightly faster than that. I know that American M829 can travel to, quote, a U.S. Army tanker, specifically the Chieftain, Nicholas Moran, quote, 2 miles in 2 seconds, unquote. So, these rounds are moving fast, and that's kind of the whole point. The way they work is you have the metal dart, And because the metal dart, which is only about maybe 22 to 25 millimeters in diameter, is not going to fit snugly down the 120 millimeter barrel of the gun, you have the sabot around it, which is usually a collection of 3 metal petals. Each piece is called a petal that fit around it. And then once the round leaves the barrel, the front end of these petals, which is kind of cup-shaped, at least if the entire thing is put together around the dart, they catch the air and the petals basically peel away. And the only thing the petals are there for is to just make sure that the subcaliber dart fits inside the barrel. The dart is usually made of one of two materials. If it's M829 or pretty much anything US, it's made out of depleted uranium. The Europeans make their darts out of tungsten. Now, the reason why is because if you're going to make a sabot dart, you need a very dense metal. Tungsten is slightly denser than depleted uranium, but to my knowledge, the primary reason for choosing tungsten over depleted uranium in a lot of European ammunition has to do with environmental concerns. Specifically the environmental concerns of after the conflict is over, any ammunition that's left embedded in the ground can get into the groundwater and do not good things to the groundwater, or at least if it's depleted uranium. I can understand that, I guess, but I'd also like to point out that tungsten isn't going to do fun things to the groundwater either. And personally, I'm in the depleted uranium camp when it comes to the sabot penetrator, because while tungsten is slightly denser than depleted uranium, while tungsten is slightly denser, depleted uranium has a self-sharpening ability to it. Because as this dart hits the target and tries to force its way through the armor, the pointed tip is going to start to blunt. At least if it's made of tungsten, it's going to start to blunt. If it's made of depleted uranium, it doesn't quite do that. Because when it's made of depleted uranium, instead of blunting, the tip starts to flake off. And it flakes off in these sort of sheets so that there's still roughly a pointed tip that's trying to force its way through the armor, even as it flakes off. That's the self-sharpening, for lack of a better term, ability that depleted uranium has over tungsten. And this offers better penetrating power. So I wonder if the subpar penetration for the sabot round on this thing is there to reflect the use of tungsten in the penetrator rather than using depleted uranium. Now, once the depleted uranium dart makes it to the other side of the armor, the post-penetration effects are... To be entirely honest, I'm not exactly sure what's happening in there, but I know that it has a combination of overpressure and the fact that the penetrator is going to drag a bunch of fragments from both itself and the armor that it's penetrating inside the vehicle to start bouncing around everywhere. So, still, you wouldn't really want to be inside a tank that just got penetrated with sabot. But I find the lack of pen on this thing to be very interesting. And like I said, I wonder if that has to do with the use of tungsten in the penetrator. We do, however, have a decently good heat round. I mean, it's not super great. Where is the T90? It doesn't have the same pen as the T90. It's got the same damage. T90M. Even more pen and more damage. HE 12, 125, 24. Versus 12, 120, 24. Okay, so it's got good HE. That's for certain. And so it's got decent heat, but it's got pretty good HE. For 245, that's not bad. You can stick an RWS with an M2 Browning on top. So, again, that's not too bad. You could go with an up armor system to increase the side armor on the hull and the turret. Or you can go with a trophy. Which, I'd like to point out, you cannot mount the trophy and the add-on hull armor at the same time, which is a bit of a pest. Which, I mean, honestly, I don't really see why you wouldn't. Theoretically, all they would need to do is just take this turret model, pair it with this hull model, and give us an upgrade for, like, 80 points. So... But you've got trophy. To a PSO, trophy. And none of these upgrades do anything to the ammunition. Okay. Turret's not moving. Oh, no, there it goes. I thought for a second I broke it. I mean, trophy is trophy. It's not going to be new to anyone who's already played the game. Huh. So it sort of hangs under the turret. Alright, so the APS isn't bad. All things considered, this is a pretty tough tank for 320 points. It's just that that's not great. Also, the speed gets reduced with either the add-on armor or trophy. Which, honestly, is a bit of a pest, but okay. So yeah, 320 points for that isn't... It's not bad. I mean, it's not spectacular, but it's not bad. By far the biggest issue's the, this is by far the biggest issue. But 450 by 720, that's... I mean, that's still on par with what the T90M gets. And T90M doesn't quite have the same armor protection. So, the only thing that's... I mean, to be entirely honest, the only thing that's beating you is the T14. The Russian unicorn itself. So... Where's Coastal? T80... Where is Mech? Where's the T72? T72B3M. So, yeah. The only thing that's matching you is going to be the, T90M. The only thing that's beating you is going to be the T14. So, that's not exactly bad. It's not spectacular, but it's not bad. And then we have an M113, just a basic M113. I kind of wish the seating capacity of this thing was up to 13. Although the M113 could actually hold up to 15 guys. Up to 15 guys depending on variant. So I suppose that could be kind of fun. 5 points for cage armor. Swap out the M2 Browning for a GMG. Where's the M113 here? Cage armor and smoke. MG Browning and Mark 19. Okay, so this comes with smoke as a default. This does not, which I find kind of interesting. Even even though the guards for the smoke launchers are still there, it doesn't come with smoke. Same weight, pretty much same everything, all things considered. Okay. And then we have the Type X, which is an unmanned vehicle. So it's a UGV or an unmanned ground vehicle. It can be airdropped. It has no smoke. Its armor's a bit meh. It's cheap. It's got decent off-road speed, decent sights. And you only literally have one javelin. Because remember, since this thing's unmanned, you can't reload. Or you can go with a Bushmaster 2 in what is very similar to the turret on the Striker Dragoon. Oh, and you do get smoke on this one, which is nice. Or you can go with a Bushmaster and 2 Spike LRs for 80 points. That's actually not that bad, all things considered. Huh. Okay. Apparently this thing could even go up as, you could mount a 50mm autocannon on this thing. But that doesn't appear to be an option here, unfortunately. And then we have a Vilcus. 9-man seating in this thing. Because, honestly, I don't know if I already said it before, but the only thing that could make this better is if it had 9-man seating. I just wish it had 9-man seating is all. This is really good, okay? Like, really good. The only other thing I could ask for is one extra seat, so you could cram Rangers or Airborne, or weapon squads or troopers in there. But that's about it. Otherwise, it appears you're left with this thing, which you notably cannot airdrop. Also, it's twice as heavy as a Striker. Which, I mean, I know I've touched on this before, but I found it very amusing that you could apparently airdrop this thing prior to the Baltic Battalion. I mean, you're not even supposed to have it. So, what I suspect is they just copied the stats for the Striker and then just gave us this. Bushmaster 2, MG3, 2 Spike LRs. So, let's... Oh, you can fire these on the move. Okay. You have an option to mount an APS, which doesn't increase the armor at all. It's just this. So, I mean, it doesn't appear to... Well, you've got this thing at the front, but is that actually part of the APS? I honestly have no idea. The vehicles are decent quality, but they're also pretty expensive. That's one thing I'm noticing. For that matter, where is the Striker ICV? I mean, a Striker ICV... Same seating, slightly slower, better armored. APS, same autocannon, but no ATGM. 30 points cheaper. Or you can go with a Javelin without the autocannon, but with a Javelin for 15 points cheaper. I don't know. To be entirely honest, this isn't bad. all things considered. Even though that honestly looks like a regular Bushmaster rather than the Bushmaster 2. And then we have the XA-180, which I am embarrassed. When I first saw this thing in the first mission, I thought it was a Lynx. Or Fuchs. Ugh. Only 10 seats, which is kind of funny because, again, the version that you couldn't have had 16. It could swim. It's decently fast. You have an option for a 50 caliber grenade launcher. So. And you do have an option to up armor it and give it smoke. Which notably removes the, the propellers. What's that, a wire cutter? I think that's supposed to be a wire cutter. Okay. I mean, it's a basic transport. Still decently fast. You don't lose speed when you put the armor package on, I notice. It's got firing ports, or at least it had in the unarmored version. And then you have support. And then we have a basic truck. Not much really here. 15,000 kilograms supplies. 90 kilometers an hour. 12 health. 240. Okay, well the plus is faster, slightly less health. M240. You know, aside from being faster, I'm honestly not sure what benefit the plus has. Or the M1075. And by extension the LVSR, because the LVSR is going to have the exact same stats. I'm honestly not sure what Okay. I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty good when you compare it with the other two. The only downside is that it's 10 kilometers an hour slower. And then we have the IRST. SAMs, yay! 140 points for a HIMAD system that only has a 2,800 meter range. Terminal guidance. 28, that's 56, it's just 5.5 kilometers. Radar, 80 kilometers, 10 health. Or you can go with 8 missiles for... Oh, you don't even get more missiles per target? That's kind of sucky. You know, to be entirely honest, only having 4 missiles on this thing isn't necessarily bad if you wanted a light book-style SAM. I mean, to be fair, even 8 missiles isn't necessarily bad if you wanted to have a light book-style SAM. So, that's not bad, all things considered. That's not bad at all. I mean, range is short, damage isn't great, but I would like the ability to put 8 missiles on it. I would like if that gave us the option of firing 2 missiles per target. But, hey, it's still pretty solid. Unless... No, missiles per target's still a thing here. I was about to say, unless they're, what they were talking about in the patch notes where they changed the anti-overkill system for SAMs, unless that basically rendered the missiles per target thing obsolete. Because... excuse me. The system would automatically fire at... would automatically fire 2 missiles at the aircraft anyway. But it does not. Okay. Alright, so K9. 40 armor. 4,300. 67 second reload time. M109A7. Alright, well it's faster than the M109A7. It's faster than the Mazda S, but it's not faster than the Kolizia. To be fair, the Kolizia is the Kolizia, so. And we're talking about something that costs 180 points, so I can see it. It's decently accurate. 240 by 180 versus what's the Mazda S? 280, 210, 5 to 7. 240, 180. Okay, well you can get the Mazda S slightly more expensive. And the Mazda S reloads the Mazda S, the Mazda M2 reloads slightly faster. Same accuracy, shorter range. So, okay, that's not too bad, all things considered. Price is a bit steep, but it's... Oh! Okay. We get an extended range option. This is just a cheaper, slower firing Kolizia. Oh yes, and we have guided rounds. Look, if I'm going to be entirely honest, I think this thing might need a slight price nerf. Like, not by much, but it's kind of invalidating the Kolizia. Because, let's be honest here, the only thing the Kolizia has to compensate is just the higher rate of fire. And, okay, yeah, it's like 5 kilometers an hour faster. Although, to be fair, nothing's touching this. I mean, honestly, though, to be fair, I do think the Kolizia is a little expensive for what you get. Oh, the book icon is different. Does that mean... Yeah. Also, does this change? No. This does, though, I'm pretty sure. Yes. Yes, it does. This is 5 points cheaper, has a longer range, slightly faster reload time, and is more accurate than this thing. Excuse me. Okay, maybe instead of this thing getting a price nerf, the Kolizia could get a price buff. I don't know. I remember they nerfed the price of the Kolizia before. Before, I think she was like, or I think it was like, what was it? 225, and then 250 with the range upgrade. I cannot remember. Let me check. Come on. Down. Oi! Okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to scroll. Or do that. View all. It was it update 1.10? I think it was update 1.10. It was either update 1.10 or 1.9, so just keep going down. Update 1.10. Change log, blah, 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 blah. Actually, no, I think it was update 1.9. Here we go. Coastal motorized guard. Ah, yes, here we are. Coalition price increased from 220 to 225. Extended range upgrades increased from 30 to 35. Just like maybe revert that change, or heck, even drop it down from 220 to like 210, and then drop this down to 30. I think that could be good. Anyway, I digress. K9, bit stupid, kind of funny. M109A5, only 135 points though, is pretty cheap. 38, not very accurate. Not exactly unusual. Ammunition, mostly HE. Or mostly smoke. Okay, that's kind of interesting. A 110-point smoke-focused howitzer. Okay, so that's what that weird shaped cover is. Oh. Alright, that could be interesting. And then we basically just have an M113 that carries... Or you can mount an MG3 on it. And cage. Does it already come with smoke? It doesn't already come with smoke. Okay. 115, 120 with the M2 Browning. What does that stack up compared to this? The exact same. Alright. 120mm mortar is basically no different. And then we have NASAMS. Hang on. Animation? And then we have NASAMS, which is basically a slam ram, not cloned, but it's very similar. You could sling load it under a Chinook, which I think you could already do with the basic slam ram. 6 AIM-120s, 130. I mean, it's the exact same price for, stat-wise, pretty much the exact same vehicle. Huh. Or you can go with 6 Sidewinders for 110 points. Alright. Or AMRAAM ER. So ever since they changed the SlamRAM to a SHORAD system, all right, developers, where's my AMRAM ER upgrade for the SlamRAM? Where is it? Where is it? I don't care if it's only for the 4 AMRAMs. I don't care. Where's my AMRAM ER for the upgrade for the SlamRAM? I honestly hope that since they have the AMRAM ER upgrade, they're going to give it to the SlamRAM. Please just give it to the SlamRAM. Honestly, I'm actually really happy that we got this, because this is exactly what I wanted. Just this looking like this. Just take the box launcher off of this thing, put it on this, give us the ER upgrade, take this launcher and just put it on a flatbed Humvee. Please just do it. It would take you guys like maybe, well, heck, I don't know how long it would take them. I don't know anything about making these models, but presumably it'd take you only a couple hours to do that. Anyway, I mean, if I'm gonna be entirely honest, I was kind of hoping we could adjust like maybe the top layer and the bottom layer, but I don't want to nitpick too much. I mean, you can make 115 and 130. $125 or like, oh no, that's not 15, that's 20. Or 10, I guess. So 120. That would be 140 or 150. Huh. PZH 2000. Oh, they didn't make the PZH 2000 durable. I was hoping they'd make the PZH 2000 durable. 225 points for 4 to 5 second reload time. Where's the Coalitzia? 4 to 5 second reload time. Okay. Alright, good range and accuracy out of the gate. Nothing stupid here, but we do get cluster rounds. Okay. And to be fair, we do get a lot of ammunition. So it's nothing as stupid. It's nothing quite as stupid as this. But, yeah. And then we have a basic Unimog, which... only 45 points. It doesn't carry much supply, though. I mean, but at the same time, the MTV is like 55 points. It carries 50% more supplies than 2 more guys. It's kind of sitting in that weird spot between the LMTV and the MTV. It's not too bad for a supply truck, I suppose. Also, I love that. I know I've mentioned this before, but I love that they replaced the symbol with the broken arrow symbol. And then we have an Unimog with a ZU-23 in the bed, standard Russian style. Helicopters and aircraft, not too bad. And infantry, so I suppose you could use it as a fire support vehicle. It is decently fast. How many guys can fit there? 16. Or we have Minstrel for 70. And honestly, I have no idea what this thing is. If it was a radar, that might be a little bit better, but 2216. 22650. Well, I mean, the problem I have with this is that it's short range, or not short range, but you only get one of them. It is fire and forget, though, so that's not too bad, but you only get one. I mean, heck, I wouldn't mind paying another 10 points for two of them. At the very least, you have more than one shot before you need to reload. 67 seconds. Reload time is kind of moot there. Resupply time is 10 seconds, though. So, I don't know. Oh, but you can fire on the move, which is something most other systems can't. Okay, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's a little disappointing, but it's not too bad, all things considered. Are the reloads stored down here? That'd be kind of funny if they were. Which makes you wonder what's stored in here. And what on earth is this thing? It looks like a pump. Like, seriously, it looks like a pump handle that you crank. Anyway, aircraft. We have some selections. We have the AS-365. 10 seats. 1,500 supplies, not much. I think even the, is that the same as the Venom? No, the Venom can carry 25. Okay, so yeah, you don't have much supplies with this thing. Although it's only 60. That's a tiny bit of ECM. It's kind of fast. Decent supplies. 200. Is that normal on a helicopter? That doesn't have helicopters. 200. 75. 75. 200. Okay. Okay. Again, I kind of just wish we had the option of customizing one or the other. Because we get 2 gun pods for 20mm autocannons. 20 to 40 kinetics, not great, but that's still not bad. Infantry vehicle and armor. Okay. And then we got 1 autocannon and 1 hydropod. Or we've got 2 hydropods. Personally, I think I might just stick with the autocannons, all things considered. That's not too bad. Vision's not great. If it had 1750 vision, that could be interesting if it had 1750 vision, but it doesn't. It just has 1200. And then we have the UH-60 with the M240 style door guns. I completely forgot to look at the camouflages for, I think, everything since the Humvee. I'll look at all that in a few minutes, though. 13 seats. I think this is literally just a carbon copy of the UH-60 here. I'm pretty sure these are just exactly the same. But we have the option of mounting grenade launchers on the sides, which is dumb and hilarious. Ugh, that is so dumb, and I love it so much. I kind of like that. And that.
I kind of like that too. I think I prefer that one. I kind of like that. Actually, I really like that. Oh no, okay. I really like that one. Oh, that's not too bad. I like that one. I wonder, does the tank barrel have anything written on it? I don't think so. Oh, that's not too bad. Oh, I like that. I like that one. And that one. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm not a really big fan of the winter camos, but that's not too bad. I like that. Okay, that one looks pretty good. EZH 2000. What's that? Not entirely sure. I don't know. It's just that the winter camo kind of looks like the vehicle's covered in scratches. Which, I mean, it's a war machine. It's not exactly supposed to look nice and all, but still, it looks like it's covered in scratches. Oh, but that's not too bad. I kind of like that. Sort of gray. That's not bad. Then we have the basic Unimog, which I'm honestly surprised the Unimog has no upgrades whatsoever. I was kind of expecting it even to have just like a self-defense machine gun, because you have this ring mount on top. This was not bad. I like it. Honestly, I was kind of expecting this thing to have self-defense machine gun too. Oh, that's not bad. Or that. Actually, I kind of like that with the way the it works with the open bed. I like that. And that. Actually, these two remind me of a toy helicopter I had. Like, oh, good grief, it was a long, long time ago. I got a toy helicopter very similar to this. And it was painted in a camouflage color scheme, a lot like this one. It was about like 12 to 18 inches long. I think this is closer to what it originally looked like. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, okay, I really like that. That's almost like, hang on. That's almost the US Blackhawk paint scheme, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's pretty much like the US Blackhawk paint scheme. Okay. And then lastly, we have planes, and there's not much. Okay. Well, that's expensive. 175 points? I mean, I was expecting something close to 150. Like, I know that really sounds like the reason why I say that is because if you're talking about the US, okay, this is also 175 points and is much more capable. It can carry twice as many supplies. It is just as fast. Granted, this is more maneuverable. And it's carrying almost 50% more guys for the same point cost. Meanwhile, this thing is only 10 points more. It's carrying literally twice as many guys. And more than twice as much cargo. Granted, this has no ECM. And that has no ECM. While this does have ECM. Slightly less health, though. This has ECM and twice as much cargo. Almost 50% more guys. I don't know. 175 points seems a little high. I was hoping closer to 150 for just for a light transport plane. Actually, that's a point. Go to vehicle? What? How much does this thing weigh? 12,000. You can't even airdrop this thing from that. Anyway, I mean, it's not bad for a transport plane, but it feels like the option you would take when you literally don't have any other option available. And if I'm going to be entirely honest, that's pretty much the same problem I have with the MC-130H. Because compared to all the other C-130 variants, the MC-130H is, in my opinion, the least worth it, because you either have the KC-130, which is 25 points cheaper, it's like 12.5% cheaper, and can do everything the MC-130H can do, except the MC-130H has 20 ECM, which, I mean, to be fair, 20 ECM isn't bad, it's actually pretty solid, but really, is that it? And heck, if I wanted to, with the KC-130, I could add some Hellfires, bring it up to just over the MC-130H, and I actually have an armament. Now, whether or not I can actually get the armament to do anything is an entirely different story. I have tested this several times, and I have no idea how to get it to actually attack things on the ground. But the MC-130H seems like the option that you don't take unless you have no other choice. Because the way I see it, the options you have is you have the MC-130J, or the C-130J is probably your preferred choice.
and then it's the KC-130J, and then it's the MC-130, and then it's the C-27. Now, if the C-27 was only 150 points, okay, I think that'd make a lot of sense. But so far, the only reason why I would take the C-27 is if I'm pairing this up with either Armor Brigade or Striker Cav. Because in either one of those two pairings, I don't have a better option. If I'm pairing it up with SOCOM, I'm going to take the MC-130. Because that's just better than this. If I'm pairing it up with Airborne, I'm going to take the C-130J, because that's basically the best C-130 variant. If I'm pairing it up with Marine Corps, I'm going to take the Harvest Hawk, which is the exact same price, and can do pretty much everything this can do, but it can do pretty much everything this can do, but better. So, I don't know. I kind of wish it was lower. It was just 150 points. This specialization, I know how many points the AirTap has. It doesn't have a lot, so I don't know. I just wish it was cheaper. I mean, heck, for that matter, I kind of wish the KC-1 or the MC-130H was only 185 points. This thing, the MC-130M, not the MC-130. No, it is MC-130H. Okay. This, I wish it was only 185 points. Make this 185 and make that 100 and make this 150. And for that matter, fix the weird thing where the minigun on this is 10 points, and yet the minigun on this is only 5. I don't understand why that is the case. It just seems weird. Just make it consistent. Heck, I don't care if you up the price of the minigun on this to 10 points. Just make it consistent, please, because it's the stats are exactly the same, but the price is different. It gets under my skin. Probably plainly obvious, but still. So that's... I mean, it's not terrible, probably, but it could be cheap. Oh, that's not bad. It's not terrible, but it could be cheaper. Okay, that's interesting. As is that. Oh, that's maybe just a touch gaudy. I mean that, or give us or give us an upgrade for like 25 or not 25, like 50 points. That gives us a Bushmaster out the side and some missiles, and then so we can just turn it into an AC-130. I think that'd be kind of fun. And then we have the L-39. And this thing, as you might have noticed, is very cheap. In fact, I can't think... Oh, that's not too bad. I can't think of... Where's Coastal? Where is the Yak-38? What is the absolute cheapest... That's 145, just for a really light, slow, sucky bomber. Where's the Harrier? That's also 145. If you want a light loitering bomb platform. To be fair, you've got good vision.
That's 140 if you want a light rocket platform. That can also loiter. So yeah, 125 is not bad. Granted, it's not great, but it's not bad. 600. Okay, so we can install a gun pod with a pair of 23mm autocannons for strafing for 15 points. Okay. Inner pylons, 38 hydras, 2 standard 500-pound bombs, 2 snake eyes, 2 sidewinders, outer pylons, hydras, 500-pound bombs, snake eyes, or sidewinders. Okay, so you could have like a 170-point helicopter hunter. That could be interesting. Actually, what is the cheapest you can do? 115 points. Just with 2 unguided 500-pound dump bombs. I mean, I kind of wish we could put guided bombs on this thing. $135 points. Or, well, no, that's with snake eyes. 125 points just with that. Or if you just wanted to throw the rockets on. 145 points, or 160 with the gun pod. The back seat's just empty. Because the L-39 was originally a trainer aircraft. This is basically the plane which you use to teach people how to fly planes. So you would have your student, I think, in the front cockpit, with the instructor in the back, and the instructor can take over if the student's about to crash and kill them both. Well, like a lot of trainers, you can also be used as a light attack aircraft, which is basically this configuration here. So I guess you could use it like that.
If I'm not mistaken, I thought the L-39 could mount different guns under the fuselage. Let me check. The PK-3 7.62mm machine gun pod, which I think that's a derivative of the PKP. Okay, so those can be carried on the wings. It could carry up to 4 gun pods on the wings, each containing 3 7.62mm machine guns. Additionally, the L-39ZA, an internal 23mm autocannon. Under cockpit 23mm twin-barrel cannon. Often considered semi-internal rather than a pod. Or it could carry 57mm rocket pods. Okay, so you have an option in HMP 250, which is a 50 caliber gun pod. So I think that could be kind of interesting. That could be fitted to light attack versions of the L-39. Which, it also mentions the Skyfox. Which I believe... Yes. L-39NG. In service. With... none of the Baltic states. Okay. Specialization, or not specializations, specifications. A gun pod. 12.7 or 20mm. Although I think this is a different variant of the L-39 that I'm looking at here, because this one has 5 external hardpoints. Can carry IR-seeking air-to-air missiles, laser-guided bombs, laser-guided rockets, free-fall bombs, unguided rockets, or machine gun pods, either 50 caliber or 20mm. So... I'm pretty sure this is a... development of the L-39, which is currently in the game. Design... Does it talk about armament here? Light attack variants have 4 underwing hardpoints for ground attacks, while the ZA variant also has an under-fuselage gun pod. Mach UB-16 rocket pods can be installed for visual appearance only. Okay. Georgia, Afghanistan. Azerbaijan, Chechnya, Iraq, Libya, Russia. Syria. Ukraine. in civilian use. Okay, so I can't find anything after a relatively quick search about gun pods for this version, aside from the possibility of installing a semi-internal 23mm autocannon, which is what I'm assuming this is. I mean, but still, 160 points for what is effectively a light strafing aircraft isn't too bad. Or 170 points if you want to mount 4 Sidewinders to it. The only thing that I know of that can come close to that is this. And that's 205 points. Granted, it's a tougher aircraft with much more loiter time and a much bigger gun, but it's not too bad. Although you don't have any ECM, which kind of sucks. So, okay, so I mean that was very interesting as a specialization. That was very interesting. I have a couple of ideas for how this is going to fit in a deck. So I will have to see. I will have to see what I can do. You're not really gonna kill anything with this kind of configuration, are you? Anyway. Oh, one more thing. Because I'm dumb and my memory's terrible, and I told myself I was gonna do this and then I completely forgot. So I just spent almost 3 hours looking at the units for the Baltic Battalion Specialization, and digressing at certain points to talk about other things. But now I want to take a look at the go away. How do I make it go away? Okay. I want to take a look at the point values for the Baltic Battalion Specialization. Now, I said that I didn't look up anything for the Baltic Battalion Specialization, but I have seen people talking about it on the Discord, and I have picked up a few pieces of information, mainly the thing about the CV90. This is the other piece of important information that I picked up. It was the point values. And I had originally figured the Baltic Battalion was going to be a lot like Striker Cav, just with the helicopter and aircraft tab cut, or the aircraft tab cut in half, and half of it put in the helicopter tab. And I was thinking of it in the context of basically like a westernized version of mech. So this is the point totals. I mean, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I wasn't too far off, except instead of cutting the aircraft tab in half, you cut it in half, you put that half into infantry, and then you cut it in half again and put the half into helicopter. It's basically what a westernized version of mech, which I find kind of amusing. What I particularly find amusing, though, is when you combine it with the current specializations. It's a bit dumb. Oh, and obviously they did. I think I mentioned this in the last video. They did change the look for this. For making a new battle group. This is a bit dumb because if you combine it with SOCOM, you get 750 vehicle, which isn't a lot, to be honest. 1250 support's not bad, but you could probably use some of that artillery. 1500 both helicopter and aircraft, and if I'm going to be entirely honest, I can't think of any sort of helicopter or aircraft from the Baltic Battalion that I'd actually want to put in a Baltic Battalion SOCOM deck. But that's just me.
No, what you get is 3,000 infantry, which is hilarious when you consider the things like the CV90 and how good that is, and 2,000 in 2,000 in the recon tab. So that's going to be very interesting. Excuse me, hang on. Alternatively, you can combine it with Striker Cav, which will get you again 3,000 infantry tab. So CV90s and strikers woot. 1,500 recon, which isn't terrible, but it's not spectacular, I guess. 1,500 vehicle, so I'm thinking Bookers, and maybe a few Leopard 2s. 2,500 support. And then 250 helicopter and 1,250 aircraft. I mean, I could think of some uses for that. Again, I can't think of any Baltic Battalion aircraft that I'd actually want to grab. Like, I just can't. But hey, an extra 250 points towards the F-16 fund wouldn't necessarily hurt. And as for the helicopters, I suppose I wouldn't mind grabbing a pair of UH-60s just for the I wouldn't mind grabbing a pair of UH-60s for troop transport purposes. 2,500 support though is going to give you a lot in the way of artillery and air defense. So that ought to be pretty fun. And again, 3,000 infantry is stupid. Both 1,500 recon and vehicle is usable. Not ridiculous, but is usable. If you combine it with airborne infantry, you get 2,500 infantry, 1,200 recon and vehicle, which isn't spectacular, but it isn't terrible either. I mean, that's the same values you get with Striker Cav, so you can definitely get it to work. 2,000 support, 1,250 helicopter and 750 aircraft, which is definitely something that you can make work. Combining it with Armor Brigade is also equally hilarious because you get 1,750 recon, 2,750 infantry, 2,500 vehicle and support, and then I don't know, I might take a couple of Blackhawks, but just completely ignore everything else beyond that. Just basically do the same thing I would do with both Guard and Mech. Just do this, but then completely ignore the air tab and just funnel that into the 10% rule for the other tabs. I could kind of do something akin to it like this. Same basic idea. Funnel that into other places. Although then again, I say that I might want to bring a couple of helicopters along, just for the sake of I might want to bring a couple of helicopters along just for the sake of troop transport. Or you could pair it with Marines, which honestly gives you a pretty decently what's the word I'm looking for? A pretty decently balanced allocation. 1,000 helicopter, 1,250 aircraft, 2,000 support, 1,750 vehicles is not bad. Not bad by any means. You could take like double FEPs and then some Leopards and maybe some Type 10s or Type X's. 2,750 infantry, which is going to be fun. And then 1,250 recon, which isn't terrible. So, what specialization would I want to make a group out of first? Honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards this. or this. Yeah, let's do this. Just mainly to see what options we have. And oh, we don't have a lot of helicopters. We only have 2 of each. In fact, I'm 180, so that's like 70. Huh. Alright, well, what about recon? We have 4 of those, 4 of those. So, I've seen people talking about spamming Spartans, but you're only going to get a maximum of 8. So I'm not really sure if that's viable. We get 6 scimitars, which isn't bad, but magazine size is only 6. And the penetration is not great at long range, so. We do get 6 of these, though. So that could be fun. What about this? 8 basic infantry, 2 special forces. Not bad. Or no, this isn't basic infantry. This is the reservists. So 8 reservists, 2 special forces, 8 line infantry, and then 4 HMG teams. Interestingly enough, you can't pile the reservists into anything that isn't the M113 or the XA180. Mech engineers, Milan teams, or Manpads teams. What about vehicle? What do we have? 6 of those. Only 2 of these. Well, that's not spectacular. But we do have 6 of these, which could be fun. I mean, that's like, what, 480 off the top of the... or, out of the gate? That could be spammable. 2 Leopard 2A8s. I don't know. I suppose you could use these kind of like infantry support tanks with, like if you gave them trophy and the 50 cal, you could use those for things like infantry support. And you know, I'm just thinking, if you think about airborne, like combine this with airborne, you can fit 6 of these and 4 Thunderbolts with the APS in the vehicle tab and have room to spare. That could be interesting. You might be able to fit a few tow Humvees in there as well, which could also be interesting. And then maybe something like that with 4 fully kitted out set V2s. That could be interesting. IRST. I mean, the best SAM you would have here really would be this. And then you can have the NASAMs in its SHORAD version, because you don't really have anything else in the way of SHORAD. So You do have a lot of artillery options here, so if you want to make an artillery spam deck, this would be the one. This would be the one to do it. Three M109A3s, two of those, two of those, two of those, four of those, two NASAMs, six of those, four of those, two of those. Okay. So you don't get a whole bunch of stuff. Except, I mean, the stuff you do get in quantity is not exactly new. So, I mean, the A6 gets guided rounds, but that's about it. The A6, interestingly enough, doesn't get smoke. The A5 does get smoke. Okay. I mean, the A7 doesn't get smoke. That doesn't get smoke. That gets smoke. What on earth is that aligned beside the gun? Is that the smoke launchers? I think that might be the smoke launchers. So yeah, I think you have quite a bit of room for an operation here. So yeah. Depending on exactly how you want to kit this thing out, this could be fun. I think it could be fun with this. I think it could be fun with this, even if your vehicle tab is a bit blech. Actually, that's a point. What could you fit in the vehicle tab? I mean, could you go full tank? Granted, you don't have much left. Maybe a pair of these. That's about it, though. I mean, if you went one tank, you could kind of spam these, but you'd only have one tank. Or you could spam these and then maybe spam these with the spikes. Actually, no, you couldn't do that. You'd have to drop two of those. If you want things like AT. You have a lot of options for infantry, though. And again, a lot of heli and air. Alright, well, I'm going to be very interested in making decks centered around this new specialization. But first, I think I'm probably going to end up playing the new scenario. And then maybe playing some of the current scenarios with decks involving the Baltic Battalion. But, so, yeah. This is all very, very interesting. And, oh, this should be fun.